Welcome again, and thanks for joining us on another time out with Obafemi Craig on Issues and Trends with Obafemi Craig. Across the world, wherever you are watching us, we want to thank you for joining us. As today we are set to have a very special interface and of course, a discussion with a distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But then I must thank you for being part of today's very special edition with our special guest. But then you want to ask, who is my guest? That I will tell you after this break. And when we come back, you get to meet my guest and we get to discuss the issues at stake with my very special guest today. Welcome back. And so live from the broadcasting station of Lagos Television and across the world where you are watching. Our guest today symbolically represent a representation as a renowned personage, aside being a Democrat. He's equally progressive. He's an administrator par excellence, a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, a crusader of justice, and of course, like we also call him from another perspective, a man who cares about his people. He was at one time a member of the Lagos State House of Assembly, having served at another time as the chairman of Lagos Island Local Government as executive chairman at the time. He equally served as the deputy speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly while in the House of Assembly in the state. But today as we speak, he's representing the Lagos Central Senatorial District in the Senate, the 10th Senate as we speak. It is a great honor as our guest today to have distinguished Senator Abdulwasiu Akanisani Eshinlokun, the Chairman Senate Committee on Marine Transport. Distinguished Senator, thank you for this honor done us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Leadership is not as easy as people think, more so when you are representing a representation within the constituents of who you represent. There is always this misplacement or misrepresentation of what is expected when you are representing them. But let us understand from your own experience and what you do, how should people understand the representation when you say you are representing them, your constituents, the federal constituency in the Senate? What does it entail and how does it go?
Well, one can just take it from the perspective of what does a legislator do. A legislator is supposed to represent his constituents. A legislator is also expected to introduce bills. A legislator is also expected to contribute to bills proposed either by government or his or her colleagues. If he is at the state, he is expected to contribute to the confirmation of commissioner nominee. If he were to be in the National Assembly, especially the Senate, he is supposed to contribute to the confirmation of ministerial nominees, ambassadorial nominees, and certain agencies of government, either the DGs or the managing directors, and sometimes the directors in such agencies. It's also to help government in resolution of any crisis. They were also to nip corruption in the bud, and they are empowered by the various sections of the constitutions, which we call oversight. And over and above all that is to contribute to the smooth running of government. Smooth running of government in various ways. Those are the expectations of a legislator.
But contrary to what we see today, distinguished Senator, constituents look forward as if you should give them employment, you should do this for them. There is high expectation from your representation and constituents, not understanding that it's not what they expect. I mean, that shouldn't be the expectation, but what you should do to benefit them in the Senate.
Well, It is not within the purview of a legislature to give employment. However, if there are employment opportunities in any federal government agencies, ministries, he ought to bring it to the knowledge of his constituents so that they can take advantage of such opportunities. And basically, that is what he can do. And if he's able to get some, the better for it.
Your years of experience in the political equation, the political calculation, the political arrangement of the Nigerian state is not in doubt. You've been tested and trusted, and people can readily say, we know who you are. But as we speak today, sir, what are you doing to ensure that your representation of the Lagos Central Senatorial District stand out amongst your
I
peers?
would also like to situate that in the context of what are the expectations, or not expectation per se, but what are the expectations of what a legislature should do, and I've enumerated them earlier. In terms of representation, you let the people feel that there is the presence of government in your area, and luckily for us in Lagos Central or Lagos State in general, the president is from this part of the country, and his presence, or the presence of the federal government, has been felt all over Lagos. You will recall that there is hardly any bridge in Lagos that has not been either repaired, upgraded, or rehabilitated in the last few months. We talk about Third Mainland and other bridges in Lagos. And Third Mainland is from the Apapa Oworo was completed. The mainland, the Oworo to Aferiwani, the end of Aferiwani, was also constructed, lit up, and what have you, and the various roads around. And that is the government. On our own part, we've also been able to do one or two things, and to assist government. Sometimes you will go all out of your ways to make sure that your presence in the Senate, as it were, is felt. We've been able to attract road constructions to our constituency. Bola Road had been done in Lagos mainland, so to speak. Bola Street, Ebute Metta. Ladejobi Street had been constructed in Apapa Igomu LCDA. Sanusi Street in the larger Surulere had been constructed, and another road at Ikate Legushi, Aigoro Street at Ikate Legushi, has also been done. The one for Lagos Island had not been done due to various reasons. The fact is that Lagos government wants to do certain roads, and one of the roads that we chose is one of those to be done by Julius Baja. But we've reached agreement, and we intend now to do the Ojogiwa Moshalashi Street, and hopefully it will be done as soon as possible. We have also been able to lit up many streets. We've done in Lekki Phase 1 about 5 streets. We've done Eshinlokun Street in Aja. We've done in Ado. We just lit up a street in Ogombo, also in Etiosa. In Surulere, we've done Adebowale Street, and currently we are doing another street right now. We've done streets in all the local government. And in Lagos Island, we've been able to do Enowa.
That is talking about your landmark achievements.
Yes,
so to speak.
Enowa, like more than 20 roads or 30 roads had been lit up in Lagos Island. Also, we've also been able to attract projects, larger projects to our constituents. The skill acquisition center at Randu Street in Apapa had just been completed. Also, we are funded, as it were, because it is the legislature that appropriated money for the execution of projects. We've also been able to fund, as it were, building at the School of Maritime Studies in Unilag. And as we speak, another auditorium had been awarded through one of our agencies, also in Masa, at LASUTEC. We work with the FISI and what have you, and we hope that within this year it will come to fruition. Those are the mega projects. And for this year, we had agreement with Mr. President that there will only be solely infrastructural development and 26 infrastructural intervention had been identified and captured by the budget. 2025 appropriation budget. It includes ICT projects for some of the schools in Lagos Central. We have Jubilee Martins Secondary School, we have Butia Lefun, Saleko, schools in mainland, and in other, scattered all over our constituency. We are also going to impact, as it were, the Okunwaja, the one that is being constructed right now. We also will be able to do something about it, and hopefully it will be awarded. An auditorium, a hall, also at Etiosa, near the resettlement area. We also will do playground for Lagos mainland also. For Apapa, they've asked for transformers, which we are going to oblige, and there's also transformer in Etiosa also. And you're going to do relaxation sports in Lagos Island. We're also going to do a senatorial office. They want for Lagos Central so that they will be able to in Lagos Island. We're also going to build and equip an IC center in Lagos Island around Itafaji. We call the place around Itafaji. We're going to do that, and so many 26 projects. And as soon as we resume, we'll be able to make sure that continue to interface with all the agencies responsible for doing all this, so that it can be awarded and done within this reasonable time. So that is what we'll concentrate our efforts on. Also, we've been able to do empowerment, so to speak, and we've interfaced with our constituency more than 16 times. We've done like a mega one of about 750 million, whereby we gave out 3 buses, around 250 million for those 3 buses, Maruwa, freezers, tailoring machine, grinding machine, welding machine. We've also been able to train, as it were, some of our constituents in the various skills, like barbing, photography, confectionery, and what have you. At Surrey local government, about 150 constituents benefited and benefited. We have also been able to engage the elderly. For 2023-2024, we've done the elderly assisted project every December. We did it in 2023 and also 2024.
If you look at when you were in the House of Assembly to now where you are in the Senate, distinguished Senator Sir, if you do a comparative analysis, what experience will you say you have seen and that has benefited or make you different in your service delivery in what you represent?
Well, I've been able to serve as an executive by being the chairman of Lagos Island Local Government and also mayor of Lagos for like 6 years, and our tenure was very, very impactful, and people of Lagos Island felt the presence of government when we were there, and there were so many projects that were done, and we thank God that we were able to do that. I actually started as a legislator in 1999 in Lagos State. I was part of the 4th Assembly in Lagos State. We served with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 to 2023. And for me, I was able, with my colleagues, able to introduce legislation that has served the test of time. One of those legislation, one, is the introduction of the Constituency Project Development Bill.
Introduction of the
Constituency Project Development Bill.
Project
That is where all these constituency projects started from. In 1999, I introduced it. And
you introduced it?
Yes.
I want people to, can you say that again?
I introduced the Constituency Project Development Bill to Lagos State House of Assembly. And many states came to Senator Mamura. Senator Mamura was our speaker then to get the bill, and was reenacted in various states. And it predates the one in the National Assembly. We started before the National Assembly.
As we speak today.
Yeah, we started before. The constituency project started from Lagos State, and they also, between Senator Mamura and Senator Okadigbo, we also started, as it were, the financial autonomy for the legislature. I, with a colleague of mine, Honorable Olan Masham from Ikorodu, and some other honorable members, introduced that bill to Lagos State House of Assembly, financial autonomy. And people thought we were crazy. How do you say the legislature should be autonomous? We felt that it is in the interest of democracy that legislatures do not go cap in hand to the executive all the time. If they should be doing that, and there can never be separation of power.
There can never be separation.
No, there can never be separation.
If they have to
do that every time to go to get executive blessings, approval for the running of the legislature, there can never be.
So the credibility and integrity of the legislative
will be compromised. The credibility, integrity, and independence of the legislature will be compromised. And we discussed with our speaker, who was Senator Mamura. We discussed with our colleagues, and it was fully supported and passed. Now, maybe a few years now, it is now being done in the Senate. So I'm forever proud that we're able to think out of the box and introduce those remarkable landmark
policies,
and which has been now been taken over by almost everybody or every legislature in the country. Right now, lawmaking naturally is similar. It's similar, just the introduction of the bill before second and third reading is very, very similar. So if you have experience, it will stand you in a very good.
And that is telling for you.
What is different is the politics, the various how you approach whatever you want to do.
I'm coming to that because there is a word that you must address in that respect.
But it's basically for second and third reading, and over time we've introduced public hearing, basically because we need the participation of the stakeholders. If you are doing something with NBA, we expect the NBA itself to be able to come, look at the bill, and tell us, yes, look at this bill section, clauses, look at this. We don't think is in the whatever is not elegantly drafted. We have what we want, they will bring what they want, and then we also look at it and look at it. If it's going to be more appropriate, we'll take, because knowledge can be gotten anywhere, especially. So that is very, very key now. We must do public hearing for any legislation that you want to do. And then, so basically, so coming from the State Assembly, going to the National Assembly, different terrain, but basically the same procedural processes
of engagement.
I do not necessarily need serious briefing, but kudos also, thanks to those I met there. They were helpful in my integration into the Senate. Basically, those I've met in the course of my job. Some were former members of the
Progressive family.
Some were members of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Some are members of the Lagos State Executive Council.
That's right.
And we're all friends. So when I got there, I was in a familiar terrain. They made sure that there was seamless integration with other members in the Senate, because we had known each other. You can't say what you know about him and behold each other in a very high esteem. And so thanks to them, I appreciate. When I got there as at the fourth assembly, we were all basically new, except only one honorable member had been in the Lagos State House of Assembly before, which was Honorable Fabikun. The 39 of us were new. But what we had going was the fact that we had trainings from various national and international agencies. In Nigeria, we had training at the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, the British Council, USAID, the Mississippi Consortium of International Development. Even the House of Assembly also trained us, and they introduced former members to take us through. To top that was the fact that between USAID and MCID, some of us were taken to the United States of America to understudy, as it were, the legislature, how it works in the United States of America. And luckily, I was one of those who benefited from such training. For like 2 months, we stayed in USA, going from one state to the other to see how it works, and that also gives us another perspective and also great understanding. As of team prayer, you will also, by the time I came back for the 8th assembly, if you're going to take into cognizance the fact that I was there in 1999, you found out that I was one of the senior that had been there before, and I found out that even despite your own understanding, you need a lot to build consensus, even when you think that things are not going into your favor. You have to mellow down, talk to people, get everybody in line. And some people are looking up to you, or some of your colleagues are looking and saying your own body language. And we did all we could do to bring an harmonious working relationship in the assembly. And we didn't have any issue. Not to say that we don't have disagreement, but we were able to manage whatever, and glory be to God.
So the building of consensus has been fundamental to your connect in what you've been doing as a representative of the good people of Lagos Central. How has this been given you, supporting your drive in what you do?
Democracy is all about consensus building. It's not, and elections are won by formation of alliances.
Elections are won by formation of alliances,
not by strictly individually. It's not strictly individualistic.
How do you mean, sir? We need to understand.
If you want to say local government election, there are stakeholders, there are critical people, there are community development association, there are chiefs, there are mechanic tradesmen, women, market men and women, and there are the political class. All of them must be taken along in your final decision. So the less friction you have, the better you are sure that that election is going to come easy. And then also, when you are in the legislature, as we are in the Senate now, there are various consensus that we must build. Say now, when Labour was agitating for new minimum wage, sometimes you will see the Senate president will say, come and dialogue. When they come to present their position, basically, as he is listening, there are things that are going underground. Okay, what is it? They are agitating for 100 or 80,000 naira per worker. You will be asking those with you, the finance committee, what will be the financial implication of that? Will the current budget be able to cater for it? If the current budget is not going to be able to cater, you're now going to be in the next budget. Or there can be, as it were, a supplementary budget where they can now be taken care of. And you must be able also to tell the Labour, okay, what you are asking for can only be done so and so. The same way you are going to engage the executive. What is your thinking about all this? What are you looking at? They say they are looking at so and so. You can't agree. If you think that is not appropriate, the president and the speaker will not tell Mr. President, please, sir, let's do it this way and that way. We'll be able to make appropriate appropriation for it. It is all, that is a consensus. You are trying to minimize a conflict between the Labour and the FG. Even at that, you are still part of the federal government, but your position enables you to interface with the two. Also, when there are policies or bills introduced to the Senate or to the National Assembly, thereabout, if there are critical area points, the leadership would discuss with the executive. Okay, we have serious issues with this. It's not by making noise in the press or being cantankerous. They will go. These are our issues. It's not as if there are no disagreement. There are disagreements, but you just find a way to make it less acrimonious, because that will serve no purpose. To serve no purpose.
Beneficial to anybody.
Not beneficial to nobody. So it is the degree to which you can minimize conflict that will determine the success or otherwise of that government. So, sir, this cannot go. This is what our people are thinking about this also, and so you are able to do all that. Okay, so you can get it to this level, or this and that. Those are the things they do. But even within the National Assembly also, there are consensus to be built, even at the various committee levels. If they bring like tax bill now, it doesn't mean that every person in the National Assembly agrees with all the provisions. There is difference between, do you agree in principle that there should be a tax reform?
That's right.
There is difference. And there is difference between clauses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You may disagree with number 9, number 10, but in general, you agree that there should be a tax reform.
You must look at the nitty-gritty of technicalities involved.
Number 9, number 10. And those who are successful are those who look critically at the various clauses and able to bring out how effective they can be or how injurious they can be to the general populace. So when you are able to identify that, others will speak to it. There might be angle you are not looking at, others will speak. Sometimes it is not at the open plenary. It might be at the committee stage, or it can be at the executive session where you iron all of these out. So when you see them come out of the executive committee and the president says so and so, and they say yes, does not mean that they've not disagreed.
They have looked into it critically.
Or they can say, so since this bill is going to the committee on finance, so finance get a consultant or get consultants, look at it, let them recommend to you, and you can now sit over it and take those you are going to take and reject those you think are not in the interest of the nation. So that is how we build consensus in the National Assembly.
All right, let's just look at this distinguished senator. In the democratic setting as ours today, we look at three pillars: the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. But some schools of thought, distinguished senator, are of the candid opinion, and I mean candid opinion, sir, that it is the legislature that is really the driver of a democratic system by being able to check excesses of the executives and vice versa, even the judiciary, where they interpret the law. In your understanding, today as a distinguished senator representing the Lagos Central Senatorial District, what role have you played in all of this balancing of this equation in ensuring that at least that rule of law as expected to play out in the decision policy that you take in the Senate?
In that context, you need a full understanding of how a democracy should work. A full democracy understanding. One, why people allude to that is the fact that if there is a dictator, the executive will be there and the judiciary will be there. But whenever there is a democracy, there must be legislators or legislature, so to speak. If there is no legislature, then there is no democracy. You can merge executive with legislature in parliamentary government, but that legislature must be there, functional, responsive. However, it will be egocentric to think that one arm is more important than the other.
It should be egocentric to think like that.
Yeah, it's a sojourn in egocentrism. The way the drafters of the Constitution has made it, they've made it in such a way that all the three arms of government are interdependent on each other. You can say we are independent, but there is no absolute independence. How? You can hardly make a law in the, say, National Assembly now, all on your own, introduce, pass, and then implement. No. Even if you pass it, you still have to give it to the president for assent. Where he refuses assent, you can still go ahead and assent to the bill, right, by 2/3 majority. However, the implementation still lies with the executive. However, those who are opposed to certain section of it, or those who want clarity about that law, may go to the judiciary for interpretation or more understanding. Funny enough, it is the judiciary interpretation, whatever they say, that is the new law. Automatically. The moment they rule, if you are not satisfied with the High Court, you go to appeal. If you are not in agreement with appeal, you can go to the Supreme Court. But when it gets to the Supreme Court and they rule, that is what the law says. However, the only advantage you have in the legislature is to look at, if you feel strongly, if the legislature feels strongly, it will look at what the Supreme Court had done and then can make amendment to that legislation and write it in another format that will be acceptable, but still be what they desire, but with certain amendment. And now the Supreme Court had written or had ruled that whenever there is a ruling on a certain section of a law, they will only put one line on it. And there is also another one that says that one arm of government cannot, as it were, disturb another arm of government in the performance of its duties. Yet you can seek redress anywhere in the court. If it's the judiciary, if a judicial worker feels that he was wrongly sacked, and or there is something wrong in the hierarchy of they can bring it. It's the duty of the legislature to oversee and then make amendment. And the judiciary are bound to accept that amendment because the committee on judiciary will oversee what they do, but not necessarily intervene or interrupt the proceedings of the court. And then when the executive wants to introduce a policy, they bring it to the legislature. It is when we pass it that they can go ahead and implement. They cannot just think of it 100% and implement. They must bring it, even when it is urgent and it has to be done as quickly as possible. As soon as it is done, they must bring it back to the legislature for full, because the democracy is based on rule of law. So they are interdependent.
So when people now advocate the advocacy, sir, that the need to look at the Nigerian constitution today is becoming very necessary. I wouldn't know whether you agree with that. It's just some opinion of the public opinion, looking at the way this ding-dong between the executive, the legislature, even the judiciary, the scenarios that plays out. What would be your own position if we look at that? The need to say that there is a need to review, is the present constitution right or wrong, or not necessarily the need to review, but to really look at what we can do to amend. What would be your position?
Well, there are so many things people are saying. Some are saying that the constitution is not autochthonous, that another constitution must be made entirely. Some are saying there should be amendment to the various certain constitutional provision. For me, in Nigeria, there is legislature. Legislature is supposed to look at any defect in a constitution. Also, it is not entirely true that the constitution must just be set aside and a new one made. That is like introducing anarchy. That means you will set the government, even the federal government, the executive will have no basis to assist when you throw away the constitution. All right? So many people are done, maybe they've done a constitutional conference, drafting committee, and made various suggestions. I think
we can still look into all of the suggestions made.
I think it's an incomplete job. It's a very incomplete job. When there is a constitutional amendment or review committee and certain suggestions were made, I think the next thing to be done is for those suggestions to be turned into bill or bills. Section 444, we don't think it should be there. Instead of that, that is what should be put there. When you do that, and now we're not in the prose that it is, in bills format, all those bills can now be
Harmonized?
No, there has to be shipped to the National Assembly to look at it, It is then that we harmonize, build consensus. The two chambers do not agree, to look at it and make various amendments or build consensus, But outright throwing away of the Constitution, even when you say, how do you go about it? Okay, some people will, every Nigerian will not sit at a table to do the Constitution. Certain people will have to do it anyway. It can only be done by certain people who are knowledgeable in such constitutional drafting. Even when you do it, you can still subject it. You have to subject it to certain recognized lawmaking body to authenticate. And we have now said that you cannot do any law without taking the general stakeholder into the frame. So for me, I do not support outright throwing away of the Constitution. I support amendment. That is introduction to anarchy. It's always the cry of the losers in most cases. They who want to partake in government through the back doors. So all those constitutional amendments, make them into bills, dump it into the legislature, and let there be serious advocacy. Now that all must be looked at and treated. Because it is constitutional amendment, they will have to go to the various sector or various section of the country. You go to Southwest, you go to each state to get input.
Okay, let's come home, distinguished senator. The Lagos Central Senatorial District is big. And indeed, if you ask me, it's bigger than some country in West Africa or African countries, if you ask me. So how have you been able to coordinate, manage, administer, interface with the different stakeholders under the Central Senatorial District, knowing that the human nature will always play out, different community leaders with different thoughts, different religious leaders with different thoughts, CDAs, CDCs with their own perspective, religious leaders with their own perspective, the youths are also there, everybody's crying here and there for your attention. How have you been able, or how have you been coordinating this for the good of the collectiveness of everyone?
Well, it's for you to be proactive, and luckily, most parties, they have their executive at the various ward, local government, and the senatorial district, so to speak. And then when you interface with all those critical stakeholders, you'll be able to get their input on various forms of. And there are CDAs who represent the community. There is artisans who aggregate. They have the association, aggregate the needs of the artisans. And there are market men and women who will aggregate the needs and aspiration of the market men and women. And in most cases, to take them all along, that is why we are doing stakeholders meeting. That is why you must have a constituency office. But you must also have your own think tank. We think that, as you are expecting people to make suggestions to you, you must also be proactive and make suggestions to people. You must have a focus. What you think you want to do to impact your community. That's the way it goes.
The recent thing you did was the 7th edition of its kind, your stakeholders' engagement with your constituency. And it was an outing that showcased quality leadership, service delivery, commitment, dedication, and you rightly target my strategy, the way I've been going, because you are a promise keeper, they said, and a man who is walking the talk. Has it been that easy for you to really do this for the good people of your constituency?
Well, the question is not easy or difficult, how easy or difficult it is. It is about how committed you are.
How committed you
are.
How
committed you are to the office you had been elected to. If you are committed to your people, that is why one of our motto is driven by your interests.
Driven by your interest. That is their interest.
Yes, by their interest. We are driven by their interest. And then we also look at, okay, We think that youth are future. Education is very key, especially in Lagos Central. We feel that the moment we have educated people, it will be easy to govern. Is when people don't know what are the expectations from the various segments of electoral or elected officials or those who are represented. That is when it becomes more difficult. And when they are educated, they can be able to impact different sectors of the economy, contribute and make your constituents wealthier. And in Lagos State, Lagos Central is the key in the sense that it has the ports, where all the monies in Nigeria, and you talk about ports, is generated. Where all these, if customs tell you that they made so and so trillion, 80% of it was generated from Lagos, from their own statistics. And then financial sector, you will find the headquarters of most banks in this area is the financial hub for the nation. It's even the hub for the unorganized private sectors. Everybody come to buy one thing or the other. It's also the headquarters for the organized sector of the economy. So critical. So in Lagos, what we try to do is for us to be smooth running. We do not encourage our citizens to disrupt economic activities, despite that we have certain challenges that we think that we feel that we're not fairly treated. Like, if you generate 80% of your revenue from customs from Lagos, how much is coming back to Lagos State?
That's right.
How much? If the people of South are agitating 13% derivation, right? Why shouldn't be 13% derivation on all the monies generated by customs, on all the money generated by NPA, on all the monies generated by NIMASA, on all the monies generated by the financial institutions? The financial institution can determine how much they made from each senatorial district. Even from each branch, they will tell you this is the profit or loss. So you can determine it. So when they pay their company tax, yeah, the percentage of it should come to each state or each senatorial district or each local government, so to speak. But you basically base it on only oil. No, it shouldn't be only oil. Oil, that's right. 30% derivation on oil is not in the interest of the nation. It's not in the interest of order, because that is not the only thing giving the nation money. Despite the fact that you will not see Lagosians going to port to disrupt economic activities, right. They will not go in front of First Bank to disrupt economic activities. That is why some people thought that Lagos this and that. But we are also having agitation. Like I was talking to the Controller General of Customs. You make so and so from your own statistic, 80%. How many of our boys are employed by customs? How many? How many of those banks employ us, indigenes of Lagos or citizens of Lagos or residents of Lagos? So when they appoint some, they will come to Lagos after the appointment or come to seek for appointment. It's not as if we don't have, we just try to manage our situations. And our leaders are very, very brainy, very, very cool, calm, and collected, right? But we will still continue another form of agitation, but not disruptive agitation, so to speak. But do not think that because it's our president that is there, we do not think that we have it rosy. No, give us what our dues are. Give us what our dues are.
That's right. All right, we must let you go, distinguished Senator, but before we let you off the hook, you are today sitting as the Chairman House Committee on marine transportation. What is that translating to in your commitment, dedication to service delivery as the representative of the people in the Lagos Central Senatorial?
Me alone, I have 45 members. Some were former governors, some were former ministers, and some they've worked in almost on all the spheres of the economy. We try to see how to help the Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy so that it will deliver its promise. I believe is that marine and blue economy is not new. It has always been part of Federal Ministry of Transport. What this government had done is to make sure that they now give it a ministry so that it can be focused on and the potential can be realized. There is a lot to be done in the Federal Ministry of Economy. There is a lot of resources. There is a lot of revenue and benefit that can accrue to the federal government and the nation in general from the marine and blue economy. I must thank the president for establishing it and making it independent and to realize its full potential. We will continue to work with them and we will continue to make Nigeria better.
Your parting words, and what do we expect to see?
We'll assure you that we will not remove our hands from the plow. We will continue to work for the upliftment of our constituency, upliftment of Lagos State, and then progress of Nigeria as a nation. We are poised to serve. We are making sure that we contribute. We will not disappoint our people. Service to our people is our watchword, and we will always be driven by their interest.
We thank you so very much, Distinguished Senator, for this very rare honor and privilege of this interview with us. We thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, viewers at home, that's just it today again on Issues and Trends with Obafemi Craig. We promise to bring him back again from now on, monitoring his activities so that we can give you the feedback and report back to him as well what you are saying for us to be able to do it better and give you the best of what you expect to see. We thank you for today. We'll see you again same time next week.